On June 15th, 2024, at my only son's wedding, in front of 187 guests, his new bride whispered something to him, and he walked straight to me and said, "Mama, you need to leave now." I'm Inez Walker. I'm 62 years old. I looked at my son, the boy I raised alone for 25 years after his daddy died, and I said, "Okay." Then I picked up my purse, walked out of that reception hall, and drove home to the 160-acre ranch that 4 generations of my family bled to own. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end, because what happened next changed everything, not just for me, but for everyone who thought an old black woman with a kind smile had nothing left to fight for. That night, sitting alone on my porch with the keys to my family's legacy hanging around my neck, I made a decision. Some folks might call it revenge. I call it protection. And by the time I was done, those who tried to take what was mine learned a hard truth. Underestimating a woman my age is the biggest mistake you can make. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning. My great-great-grandfather, Ezekiel Walker, bought this land in 1875 with $847 in gold coins, money he saved working as a freedman for 8 years after the Civil War ended. That doesn't sound like much now, but back then in Reconstruction, Texas, a black man owning 40 acres of prime farmland was nearly impossible. Let me tell you exactly how impossible. Ezekiel bought this property from a white farmer named Coleman on April 3, 1875. The deed was signed, notarized, and recorded at the county courthouse. Ezekiel moved his wife Ruth and their baby son Samuel onto the land that same week. They built a one-room cabin out of pine wood and started planting. 3 months later, Coleman showed up with the sheriff claiming Ezekiel stole the land, said the deed was fake, said black folks had no business owning property in this county. But Ezekiel had something Coleman didn't expect: the original bill of sale, 2 witness signatures, and a white lawyer named Harrison who believed in the law more than he believed in keeping black folks down. They went to court, something almost unheard of in 1875 Texas, for a black man to sue a white man. Ezekiel won. The judge ruled on July 18, 1875, that the deed was legal and binding. The land was Ezekiel's. Coleman and his 3 sons came back 4 nights later with torches. They burned Ezekiel's cabin to the ground while he and Ruth ran into the woods carrying baby Samuel. The Colemans fired 14 shots into the darkness. 1 bullet grazed Ruth's shoulder. Another hit the tree where Ezekiel had hidden. But Ezekiel didn't run. He rebuilt that cabin in 11 days. He bought a Winchester rifle and sat on his porch every night for the next year, waiting for the Colemans to come back. They never did. My great-great-grandmother Ruth lived on this land for 63 more years. She watched her brother Thomas lynched in town on August 9, 1889, for talking back to a shopkeeper who shortchanged him. After that, Ruth barely spoke for 2 years. But she kept working this land. She expanded it to 80 acres. She raised 8 children here. And when the Great Depression hit, and white buyers came offering cash for her property, cash she desperately needed, she told them all the same thing. My husband died protecting this land. My brother died because he didn't have land to protect him. This property is proof we existed when y'all tried to erase us. You can't have it. My grandmother Sarah, Ruth's youngest daughter, inherited the ranch in 1938. She married my grandfather Daniel, and together they expanded to 120 acres by 1965. My grandfather fought in World War II, served in the 92nd Infantry Division, came home with a Purple Heart and 2 bullet wounds. The VA hospital in town wouldn't treat him because he was black. He drove 87 miles to the nearest black hospital and almost died in the car. When he recovered, he came back to this ranch, planted 200 pecan trees, and said, "This land is the only place in America where I'm free." I inherited this ranch when my parents died in a car accident in 1983. I was 21 years old. I married James Walker 3 months later. A good man, a strong man, who understood what this land meant. Together, we expanded to 160 acres. We raised cattle, grew pecans, and built a life. And we had a son, Isaiah. James died on October 12, 1999. Pancreatic cancer. He was 48 years old. Isaiah was 12. I became a widow at 37 with a preteen son and a 160-acre ranch to run alone. Those first years were the hardest of my life. I cried every night after Isaiah went to bed. I'd sit in James's study with the account books open, trying to understand the numbers, trying to figure out how to keep this place running. The property taxes alone were $8,400 a year. The equipment maintenance was another $12,000. The cattle feed ran $15,000 annually. Isaiah became the man of the house at 12 years old. He tried so hard to be strong for me. "Mama, I can fix the fence," he'd say, carrying tools twice his size. "Baby, you're still a child." "No, ma'am, I'm the man now." That's what Daddy would want. He learned to drive the tractor at 13. He learned to herd cattle at 14. By the time he was 16, he could repair any engine on the property and negotiate with our feed suppliers like a grown man. We became a team. Every morning we'd sit on the porch with coffee. Well, coffee for me, hot chocolate for him back then, and plan the day. Every evening we'd watch the sunset together and talk about the future. "You know what, Mama?" he said one night when he was 17. "One day my kids are going to grow up here, just like I did. They're going to run through these same fields, learn to ride on these same horses. And I'm going to teach them about great-great-granddaddy Ezekiel and how he built all this with his own hands." "I hope so, baby. I hope you find a woman who loves this land as much as we do." "I will, Mama. I promise." Isaiah got a full academic scholarship to Texas A&M, but after his first semester he came home for Christmas and said, "Mama, I'm transferring to the community college here. I can't leave you alone with all this work." "Isaiah, no. It's already decided, Mama. My place is here with you. Daddy would want me to protect you and this land. That's what I'm going to do." He graduated from Lone Star Community College with a degree in agricultural business management in 2009. He moved into the small cottage on the property, the same cottage my grandfather built in 1952. He worked the ranch full-time alongside me. For 15 years, it was just the two of us. We expanded our cattle operation. We started selling our pecans at farmers markets across 3 counties. We made enough to not just survive, but to thrive. Isaiah turned 35 in 2022. He'd dated a few women over the years, but nothing serious. He always said, "I haven't found the right one yet, Mama, the one who understands what we have here." Then, in March 2022, he met Simone Bradford at an agricultural business conference in Houston. Isaiah came home from that conference different, excited in a way I hadn't seen since he was a boy. "Mama, I met someone. Her name's Simone. She's smart, like really smart. She has an MBA from UT Austin. She works as a consultant for agribusiness companies, and she's beautiful." "That's wonderful, baby. When do I get to meet her?" "Next weekend. I invited her to visit the ranch." The following Saturday, Simone Bradford pulled up in a silver BMW 5 Series. I was on the porch shelling peas. I stood up, wiped my hands on my apron, and walked down to greet them. Simone stepped out of that car like she was stepping onto a photo shoot. She was 28 years old, tall and elegant, wearing designer jeans that probably cost $300, a silk blouse, and heels that had no business being worn on a dirt road. Her hair was straightened perfectly. Her makeup was flawless. She carried a Louis Vuitton purse on her arm. "Mrs. Walker," she said, extending her hand with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "It's so nice to finally meet you. Isaiah has told me so much about you." "Call me Inez, sweetheart. Welcome." Isaiah gave her the tour. I watched from the kitchen window as they walked the property. I saw Simone's face when she looked at the old barn, the one my grandfather built in 1955, weathered and leaning slightly but still solid. I saw her expression when Isaiah showed her the cattle pens, the equipment shed, the pecan groves. She wasn't impressed. She was calculating. When they came back to the house, I'd made sweet tea and peach cobbler. We sat on the porch. "So, Simone," I said, "Isaiah tells me you work in agribusiness. What exactly do you do?" "I'm a consultant," she said, stirring sugar into her tea. "I help agricultural operations maximize their revenue potential. I look at properties and assess their value, not just current value, but potential value if they were utilized differently." "Utilized differently?" I asked. "Well, for example, and please don't take this the wrong way, but a property like this," she gestured broadly at the ranch. "It's beautiful, historic, full of character, but from a business perspective, it's underutilized. You're running cattle and selling pecans, which is traditional, but not particularly high margin. Have you ever considered diversification? What kind of diversification? Agritourism, event hosting, corporate retreats. There's a huge market right now for authentic heritage experiences. People will pay premium prices to have weddings or corporate events at historic properties, especially ones with the kind of story this place has. You could be generating $50,000 to $75,000 per event, hosting 20 to 30 events per year. That's $1.5 million in annual revenue compared to what you're making now. She said it so casually, like she was discussing the weather, not like she was suggesting we turn my family's sacred ground into a business. This isn't a business, sweetheart, I said carefully. This is our home. Of course, Simone said quickly. I didn't mean to suggest otherwise. I just think, from a purely financial perspective, there are opportunities here that aren't being explored. Isaiah was nodding along, which worried me more than anything Simone said. After she left that evening, I talked to Isaiah in the kitchen while we washed dishes. What do you think of her, Mama? She's smart, I said carefully. Educated, pretty. But she looks at this place like it's an asset, not a home. That worries me. Mama, she's just thinking practically. You always taught me to think about the future, about sustainability. Maybe she has a point about diversification. Isaiah, your great-great-granddaddy died protecting this land from people who wanted to use it for profit. Your great-grandmother refused to sell even when she was starving. Your daddy and I worked ourselves to the bone to keep this place in the family, not to turn it into some kind of theme park. Nobody's talking about a theme park, Mama. We're talking about smart business decisions. Smart business decisions. That phrase. I'd never heard Isaiah use it before. It sounded like something Simone would say. Over the next 2 years, I watched my son change. He started talking about modernization and efficiency. He stopped sitting on the porch with me in the evenings. He spent more time on his phone, texting Simone, looking at business plans she'd send him. In July 2023, he asked me about the property deed. Mama, the deed is in your name only, right? Not jointly with me? Your daddy's will left you 50% ownership, but I have full administrative control until I decide otherwise. Why? Just curious. Simone was asking about the legal structure. Why is Simone asking about our legal structure? She's helping me understand the business side of things, that's all. Red flags were going up in my mind, but I told myself I was being paranoid. This was my son, the boy I raised. He wouldn't... In November 2023, Isaiah proposed to Simone. They'd been together for 20 months. Mama, I'm going to marry her, he said, showing me the ring. A 2-carat diamond that must have cost $15,000 or more. She's the one. That's wonderful, baby. I'm happy for you. I tried to mean it. I really did. They set the wedding date for June 15th, 2024. Simone wanted to have it at the ranch. She said it would be perfect for a heritage-themed wedding. I spent 3 months preparing. I embroidered linen tablecloths by hand. I planted extra flowers in the garden. I arranged for the ceremony to be held under the massive oak tree that my great-grandmother Ruth planted in 1900. I cooked for days, traditional dishes that my family had made for generations. Collard greens with smoked ham hocks, cornbread with honey butter, sweet potato pie, peach cobbler, fried chicken seasoned with my grandmother's secret blend. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted to show Simone that this family, this land, this heritage, it was worth respecting. I bought a new dress for the wedding, navy blue, the same color James had loved, the color I wore when we renewed our vows on our 15th anniversary. It was elegant, modest, appropriate for the mother of the groom. The morning of June 15th, I woke up early. I styled my hair in an elegant updo. I put on pearl earrings that James had given me on our 20th anniversary. I looked at myself in the mirror and thought about James, about how proud he would have been to see his son getting married. I touched the keys hanging around my neck, the keys to every building on the property, the keys James had given me before he died. I never took them off. I drove to the reception hall that Simone had rented. She'd insisted on having the reception indoors in a climate-controlled venue rather than outside on the ranch. I arrived at 3:47 p.m. The ceremony was scheduled for 4 p.m. The hall was beautiful. White flowers everywhere, string lights hanging from the ceiling, round tables with those linen tablecloths I'd spent weeks embroidering. I walked in smiling, ready to greet the guests, ready to hug my son before the ceremony. Simone saw me first. She was standing near the front, surrounded by her bridesmaids, all of them in matching rose gold dresses. She looked stunning in her wedding gown, a $8,000 designer dress that I knew cost that much because Isaiah had told me, pride in his voice. When Simone's eyes landed on me, her expression changed. The smile vanished. Her eyes went cold. She leaned over and whispered something to her maid of honor. Then she walked directly to Isaiah, who was greeting guests near the entrance. She grabbed his arm and pulled him aside. I saw her whispering urgently, gesturing in my direction. Isaiah's face fell. He looked at me, then back at Simone. They had a brief, intense conversation. Then Isaiah walked toward me with the kind of walk you use when you have to do something you don't want to do. "Mama, can we talk outside? Just for a minute?" "Sure, baby. What's wrong?" We stepped out into the parking lot. "Mama, your dress? You don't like it? I can change. I brought another one in the car just in case." "No, it's not that. It's..." Simone is upset. She says the navy blue is too close to the wedding color palette. Hey, she says you're trying to steal attention from her. I stared at my son. "Isaiah, this is a navy dress. It's conservative. It's appropriate. I'm not trying to..." "I know, Mama, I know. But she's really stressed right now, and I need today to go smoothly. Can you please just maybe go home and change?" Something in my chest cracked a little. "You want me to leave your wedding to go change my dress?" "Just for an hour. Come back for the reception. Please, Mama. Just this once." "Isaiah, I spent 3 months preparing for this day. I cooked all the food in there. I made those tablecloths. His face hardened. It was a look I'd never seen before. "Actually, Mama, Simone thinks maybe it's better if you don't come to the reception at all." The world tilted. "What?" "She says you've been judging her since the day we met, making her feel unwelcome, making comments about how we live, about her job, about..." "Isaiah, I have never..." "She doesn't want you here, Mama, and it's her wedding day. So I'm telling you, you need to leave." 187 people were gathering inside that hall. Members of my church, neighbors I'd known for 40 years, family members who'd driven from 3 states away. And my son, my only child, the boy I raised alone, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, was telling me to leave his wedding. "Okay," I heard myself say. The word came out calm, almost gentle. "Okay, Isaiah." "Mama, no, it's fine. It's your wedding. If this is what you want, then..." "Okay." I turned and walked toward my car. Behind me, I heard Isaiah call out, "Mama, wait!" But I kept walking. Inside the hall, I had to collect my purse from the table where I'd left it. I walked through the crowd of guests who were suddenly silent, watching. I felt their eyes on me. I saw their confusion. As I reached my table, Mrs. Dorothy Hayes, Mama's oldest friend, now in her 80s, reached out and touched my hand. "Baby girl," she said softly. "When a son chooses between his wife and his mama, he's already made his choice. But you get to choose yourself, too. Remember that." I nodded, picked up my purse, and walked out. The drive home took 23 minutes. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even feel angry yet. I just felt empty. When I pulled up to the ranch house, I sat in my truck for a long moment, looking at the home my great-great-grandfather built, that my grandparents expanded, that my parents protected, that James and I poured our lives into. I touched the keys around my neck, and for the first time since James died, I heard his voice clear as day in my mind. "Don't let nobody take this from you, Inez. Not even our boy if he loses his way." I walked into the house. I changed out of that navy dress and folded it carefully, putting it in the back of my closet. I made myself a cup of chamomile tea. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd fed Isaiah breakfast every morning for 25 years, and I stared at nothing. My phone rang 3 times that night. Isaiah's name on the screen. I didn't answer. At 11:34 p.m., he texted, "Mama, we need to talk. Call me tomorrow." I turned off my phone and went to bed. I didn't sleep. I just lay there in the dark, thinking about James's will, about the keys, about the words Simone had said 2 years ago. Properties with stories like this have tremendous untapped potential. And I began to understand. This wasn't about a dress. This was never about a dress. This was about land, about money, about a 160-acre ranch worth approximately $2.8 million at current market value. This was about Simone positioning herself to get what she'd wanted from the very beginning. At 6:47 a.m. on June 16th, I woke up, made coffee, and walked into James's study. I opened the safe hidden behind his portrait, the safe only I knew the combination to. Inside were all the documents James had left me. Property deeds, tax records, his will, and a sealed envelope marked, "For Inez, open if anyone ever tries to take the ranch." I held that envelope in my hands, and I knew that my husband had seen this coming 25 years ago. I made a decision right then. If they wanted this land, they were going to have to go through me, and I wasn't going to make it easy. I picked up my phone and called attorney Jerome Thompson, our family lawyer, a man who'd known me since I was a girl, who'd fought for black farmers' rights for 40 years. "Jerome," I said when he answered, "I need your help, and I need to know everything about my legal rights to this property." "Inez, what happened?" "Everything," I said. "Everything just changed." Jerome Thompson's office was on the second floor of a brick building on Main Street, the same building where his father had practiced law in the 1960s, defending black farmers against discriminatory lending practices and illegal land seizures. I arrived at 9:15 a.m. on June 17th, the morning after my son's wedding. I hadn't slept. I was wearing jeans and a work shirt. The keys were still around my neck. Jerome's secretary, Miss Paula, took one look at my face and said, "Oh, honey, what happened?" She'd known me since I was 16 years old. "I need to see Jerome. Is he available?" "For you? Always. Go on in." Jerome Thompson was 71 years old, with white hair, brown skin weathered by 7 decades of Texas sun, and eyes that had seen every trick white developers and greedy relatives had used to steal black-owned land. He stood up when I entered, concern written across his face. "Inez Walker, I heard about the wedding. Whole town's talking about how Isaiah—" "I need you to tell me about James's will. Every single detail, every clause, every protection he built in." Jerome gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Sit down. Let me pull the file." He opened a filing cabinet and removed a thick folder labeled Walker James Robert, Estate Documents 1999. He set it on the desk between us. "Your husband was one of the smartest men I ever knew," Jerome said. "When he got his diagnosis in May of 1999, he came to see me. Said he needed to make sure this ranch would be protected after he was gone. Not just from outside threats, but from, well, he used the word confusion." "Confusion?" He said, "Jerome, my boy is 12 years old. He's a good kid, but he's going to grow up, and someday he might meet someone who doesn't understand what this land means. Someone who sees dollar signs instead of history. I need to make sure Inez has the power to protect our legacy, even if it means protecting it from Isaiah himself." My throat tightened. He said that? Word for word. I remember because it broke my heart. Here was a dying man worrying about something that might not happen for decades. Jerome opened the folder. "Let me show you what he did." He pulled out the will, a 27-page legal document dated September 3rd, 1999, 6 weeks before James died. "Here's the structure," Jerome said, pointing to specific clauses. "The property is divided 50-50 between you and Isaiah in terms of ownership. But, and this is crucial, you have 100% administrative control. That means," he counted on his fingers, 1. Isaiah cannot sell any portion of the property without your written, notarized consent. 2. Isaiah cannot mortgage the property without your written, notarized consent. 3. Isaiah cannot modify the use of the property, meaning convert it to commercial use, lease it for events, subdivide it, or change its agricultural designation without your written, notarized consent. 4. You have sole discretion over who lives on the property. 5. You control all financial decisions regarding the property. 6. You can modify your own will at any time to change Isaiah's inheritance, and he has no legal standing to challenge it as long as you are deemed mentally competent. So legally I have all the power? Yes. James built these protections specifically because he knew, or feared, that pressure might come someday, either from outsiders or from Isaiah himself if he married the wrong person. Jerome pulled out another document. "But there's more." James left this with me. He said to give it to you if the time ever came. Based on what happened yesterday, I think that time is now." He handed me a sealed envelope, cream-colored thick paper with James's handwriting. "For my Inez, open when you need strength." My hands shook as I opened it. June 8th, 1999. My dearest Inez, if you're reading this, something has gone wrong. Someone is trying to take the ranch from you, or worse, trying to convince you to give it up. I need to tell you the whole truth about what we have, because I never told you all of it while I was alive. I didn't want to burden you with the weight of it. Do you remember how I always said my great-grandfather Ezekiel was lucky to get this land? That he bought it fair and square and that was the end of it? That wasn't the whole story. After Ezekiel won in court in 1875, after the Colemans burned his cabin and shot at him and Ruth, he thought the worst was over. But 3 weeks later, on August 4th, 1875, a group of white men from town showed up at night, 12 of them. They told Ezekiel he had 24 hours to leave or they'd kill him, Ruth, and baby Samuel. Ezekiel rode to Austin, 87 miles on horseback, and went to the Freedmen's Bureau. He filed a formal complaint. A bureau agent named William Sinclair came back with him and stayed on the property for 3 months, armed, making sure nobody touched the walkers. That agent saved our family. Without him, we wouldn't exist. This ranch wouldn't exist. But here's what I never told you. In 1952, my grandfather Daniel, your husband's grandfather, got a visit from a development company called Texas Land Holdings. They offered him $50,000 for the ranch. That was massive money in 1952, worth about $500,000 in today's dollars. We were struggling. The cattle operation was barely breaking even. 3 company representatives came to the house. They had contracts ready. They told Granddaddy Daniel that colored folks were selling their land all over Texas, that it was the smart thing to do, that his children would benefit more from the cash than from working this difficult land. My grandmother Sarah threw them out, literally threw a pot of hot grits at one of them, told them if they ever stepped foot on Walker land again, she'd shoot them for trespassing. 2 weeks later, our barn burned down. The sheriff ruled it an accident. It wasn't, but Granddaddy Daniel rebuilt, and he never sold. In 1979, right after we got married, I got a similar offer. A company called Preston Development offered us $275,000 for 100 of our 160 acres. Said we could keep the house and 60 acres, make $250,000, and live easy. I almost took it, Inez. We'd just gotten married. You were pregnant with Isaiah. I wanted to give you security. But my father pulled me aside and said, "Son, they've been trying to take this land from us for 104 years, sometimes with guns, sometimes with fire, sometimes with contracts and cash, but it's always the same goal, get the black family off the land that proves they mattered." I turned down that offer, and you and I built our life here instead. Now I'm dying, and I'm terrified that after I'm gone, someone will come again. They always do. Every generation of walkers has faced it. Maybe it'll be a developer. Maybe it'll be the county claiming eminent domain. Maybe it'll be a new tax law designed to force sales. Or maybe, and this is what keeps me up at night, maybe it'll be someone close to us, someone who marries into our family, someone who looks at this land and sees an opportunity instead of a responsibility. That's why I structured the will the way I did. Not because I don't trust Isaiah. I do, with all my heart, but because I trust you more. You understand what this land represents. This ranch isn't just 160 acres of Texas dirt, Inez. It's proof that Ezekiel survived when they tried to kill him. It's proof that Ruth kept going after her brother was lynched. It's proof that Daniel came back from war and built something when the country he fought for wouldn't even treat his wounds. This land is a receipt. It says, "We were here. We built this. We mattered." Don't let anyone tell you it's just property. Don't let anyone convince you that selling it or changing it is progress. Don't let anyone, not even our son, make you feel guilty for protecting it. You are the guardian now, and I trust you completely. One more thing. Jerome has the full documentation of every attempt to take this land from our family. 1875, 1952, 1979, and 3 other attempts I never mentioned. If someone pressures you, show them that file. Show them that this isn't paranoia. This is history. I love you, Inez. I'm sorry I'm leaving you alone with this burden, but I know you're strong enough to carry it. Protect the keys. Protect the land. Protect yourself. Forever yours, James. When I finished reading, tears were streaming down my face. Jerome quietly pushed a box of tissues across the desk. He knew, I whispered. He knew this would happen. He hoped it wouldn't, but he prepared for it just in case. Jerome pulled out another thick folder. This is the documentation he mentioned. Every attempt to take Walker land, going back to 1875. Notarized statements, court records, newspaper clippings, FBI reports from the 1950s about organized efforts to force black families off their land. He opened the folder. Inside were dozens of documents, organized chronologically. August 4th, 1875. Freedmen's Bureau Report. Complaint filed by Ezekiel Walker regarding death threats from local white residents. November 12, 1952. Texas Land Holdings offer letter. $50,000 for 80 acres of Walker property. July 28, 1979. Preston Development Proposal. $275,000 for 100 acres. March 15, 1994. County tax reassessment that mysteriously tripled Walker property taxes. James successfully challenged it. June 3, 1998. Development company inquiry about purchasing underutilized agricultural land in the county. 5 generations, I said. 5 generations of people trying to take this from us. 6 now, Jerome said quietly. Whatever's happening with Isaiah and his new wife, this is attempt number 6. Jerome leaned back in his chair. Tell me everything. What exactly happened? What has Isaiah said? What has Simone said? I told him. The wedding, the dress, the demand to leave. The way Simone had looked at the ranch on her first visit. The constant talk about modernization and untapped potential. Jerome's expression grew darker as I spoke. Inez, I need to tell you about something called heir property fraud. It's one of the biggest threats to black land ownership today. What is it? It's when people, developers, speculators, sometimes even family members, target black families who own valuable land. They use various tactics to pressure the owners to sell or sign over property. Sometimes they claim the owner is too old to manage it. Sometimes they claim it's wasting the land's potential. Sometimes they marry into the family to get access. He pulled out his phone and showed me a news article. Black families lose millions in acres through systematic land theft. Investigation finds pattern of targeted fraud. This is happening all over the South, Jerome said, and it's getting worse. Companies have figured out that there's billions of dollars in black-owned rural land that families like yours have held on to for generations. They've developed sophisticated methods to separate those families from their property. You think that's what Simone is doing? I think we need to find out exactly who Simone Bradford is and who she works for. Jerome picked up his phone. I have a friend who's a private investigator, former FBI. He specializes in corporate fraud. Can I bring him in on this? Yes. Do whatever you need to do. Good. In the meantime, I need you to do something for me. He pulled out a business card. This is Dr. Patricia Chen. She's a psychiatrist. I want you to see her this week and get a complete psychiatric evaluation. You think I'm crazy? God, no. But if Isaiah and Simone decide to challenge your control of the property, they might claim you're not mentally competent to make decisions. It's a common tactic. I want you to have documentation from a licensed psychiatrist stating that you are in full possession of your mental faculties. It'll protect you. I took the card. One more thing, Jerome said. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. If Isaiah asks you for the keys, for access, for permission, you say no. If he asks you to meet with lawyers or accountants or anyone else, you say no until I'm present. Understand? I understand. Good. Now go home. Let me start digging into who Simone Bradford really is. On June 20th, 4 days after our meeting with Jerome, Isaiah called me for the first time since the wedding. I almost didn't answer, but I needed to hear what he'd say. I needed to know what was coming. Mama? His voice sounded tired, strained. Hello, Isaiah. Mama, I'm sorry about the wedding. I shouldn't have asked you to leave. Simone was just stressed and It's done, baby. What do you need? Silence on the other end. Then, Simone and I have been talking. About the future. About About the ranch. What about it? We want to make some improvements, modernize a little, maybe renovate the main house, update some of the equipment, expand the event hosting capabilities. Event hosting? Isaiah, we run cattle. We grow pecans. We're not in the event business. But we could be, Mama. Simone has run the numbers. We could generate $60,000 to $80,000 per event. If we host just one event per month, that's $720,000 to $960,000 per year in additional revenue. Compare that to what we're making now from cattle and pecans. Maybe $150,000 gross, $75,000 net after expenses. So you want to turn your great-great-grandfather's land into a wedding venue? It's not just a wedding venue, Mama. It's a business opportunity. And it would benefit both of us. You'd get 50% of the profits. I don't want profits from turning our home into a tourist attraction. Then what do you want, Mama? His voice was rising. You want to keep living there alone, getting older until you can't manage it anymore? You're 62 years old. What happens when you're 72? 82? Who's going to run that place? You were supposed to. Silence. I am going to help run it, Mama, but I have a wife now. I have responsibilities to her. We can't just live in the past, working ourselves to death for tradition. Your father died protecting that tradition. My father died 25 years ago, Mama, and you've been living like he's coming back ever since. It's not healthy. Those words. I heard Simone in them. Isaiah, I need to ask you something. Did Simone know who you were before she met you at that conference? What kind of question is that? Did she know about the ranch? About the property? Did she research you before that first conversation? Mama, that's insulting to both of us. I'm not some fool who got tricked. I didn't say you were. I'm just asking. I need the keys, Mama, to the equipment shed and the main barn. I want to show a contractor what needs to be renovated. Just for estimates. That's all. No. No? The keys stay with me. They're my responsibility. I'm half owner of that property, Mama. I have a right. You have 50% ownership. I have 100% control. Your father's will was very specific about that. So you're going to hold this over my head? Use the will to control me? No, baby. I'm going to use the will to protect what your father left us both. From who? From me? Your own son? From whoever needs protecting it from. He hung up. On June 25th, Jerome called me to his office. His investigator friend, Marcus Chen, was there, a quiet man in his 50s with sharp eyes and a leather folder full of documents. Mrs. Walker, Marcus said, I've been investigating Simone Bradford for 5 days. What I found is concerning. He opened his folder. Simone Bradford, age 28, born in Dallas, Texas. Parents are middle class. Father is a dentist, mother is a high school teacher. She graduated from UT Austin with an MBA in 2019. Clean record. No criminal history. But her employment history is interesting. She currently works for a company called Patterson Development Group. Do you know what they do? No. Marcus pulled out a brochure. Patterson Development Group, Agricultural Land Acquisition and Development. They're a real estate development company that specializes in buying rural land, particularly in East Texas, and converting it to commercial use. Boutique hotels, event venues, corporate retreat centers, high-end residential developments. My stomach dropped. In the past 6 years, Marcus continued, Patterson Development has acquired 47 properties across 12 counties in East Texas. Total acreage, 8,340 acres. Total acquisition cost, $127 million. Current developed value, $310 million. He pulled out another document. Here's what's interesting. 31 of those 47 properties, 66%, were previously Black-owned family farms that had been in those families for multiple generations. They target Black families? They don't advertise it that way, but yes, the pattern is clear. They identify historically Black-owned rural properties that have appreciated significantly in value but are still being used for traditional agriculture, meaning the owners aren't maximizing the land's commercial potential. Marcus pulled out more papers. Simone Bradford works as a land acquisition consultant for Patterson Development. Her job is to identify target properties, and the term they use internally is facilitate acquisition, meaning she finds ways to convince property owners to sell, or to give her company access to develop the land. She gets paid a base salary of $85,000 per year, plus commission. How much commission? Marcus slid a paper across the desk. It was a copy of Simone's employment contract. Commission structure: 3% of acquisition price for properties under $1 million, 5% for properties $1 to $5 million, 7% for properties over $5 million. I did the math in my head. Our ranch was worth approximately $2.8 million. 5% of that was $140,000. She'd make $140,000 if she got us to sell? If she got you to sell to Patterson Development, yes. Jerome leaned forward. Inez, look at this. He showed me another document, an internal Patterson Development memo dated January 15, 2022. High priority targets, Q1 2022. The list included 12 properties. Number 7 was Walker Ranch, 160 acres, McLennan County, estimated value $2.8 million. Historical black-owned property, ideal for heritage event venue. Contact, none established. Priority, high. Below that, handwritten notes. S. Bradford assigned, conference approach. Target, family member. Timeline, 18 to 24 months. January 15th, 2022. 2 months before Isaiah met Simone at that agricultural conference in March. She was assigned to us, I said slowly. She didn't meet Isaiah by chance, she targeted him. It appears that way, Marcus said. The conference he attended, the Texas Agricultural Business Summit in Houston on March 12, 2022. Patterson Development was one of the sponsors. Simone was there in an official capacity, manning their booth. Your son's name was on the attendee list, which was public information. She would have known he'd be there. I felt sick. There's more, Marcus said. I pulled Simone's phone records, legally obtained through proper channels. In the week before that conference, she had 7 phone calls with her supervisor at Patterson Development. After the conference, she filed an internal report. I have a copy. He slid another paper across the desk. Patterson Development, Target Acquisition Report, March 14, 2022. Filed by Simone Bradford, Property, Walker Ranch. Target number 7. Status update. Initial contact established with Isaiah Walker, son of primary property controller Inez Walker. Subject is 35, single, works on family ranch. Appears emotionally attached to property but expresses frustration with traditional management style. Mother, age 60, has full administrative control per deceased father's will. Subject confirms this creates tension. Recommended approach: develop personal relationship with subject. Timeline: 12 to 18 months to engagement. Post-marriage: position for gradual acquisition, either through voluntary sale or forced partition if voluntary approach fails. Confidence level: high. Subject appears receptive to modernization concepts and shows signs of financial frustration with current operation. Next steps: continue relationship development. Scheduled second meeting for March 19th. The room spun. I read the report 3 times, each time hoping I'd misunderstood. But I hadn't. Simone hadn't fallen in love with my son. She'd been assigned to him. Their entire relationship, the romance, the proposal, the wedding, all of it was a business strategy. She played him, I whispered. From the very beginning. It appears so, Jerome said quietly. Does he know? I don't believe so. Everything Marcus found suggests Isaiah genuinely believes Simone loves him, and that her business suggestions are just good advice from a knowledgeable spouse. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the town where my family had lived for 149 years. What do I do? I asked. First, Jerome said, you protect yourself legally. I'm going to draft a new will for you. If Isaiah continues down this path, we need to make sure he can't inherit in a way that allows Patterson Development to eventually acquire the property. What does that mean? It means you create an irrevocable trust. The land goes into the trust upon your death. Isaiah can receive income from it, but he can't sell it, can't mortgage it, can't convert it to commercial use. The trust maintains the property as agricultural land in perpetuity. He'll hate me. He might, but he'll understand eventually. And more importantly, the land will be safe. On July 2nd, I received a text message from Simone, the first direct communication from her since the wedding. Inez, I'd like to take you to lunch this Friday. Just the two of us. I think we got off on the wrong foot, and I'd like to fix that. My treat. Giovanni's at 1 p.m.? Giovanni's was an upscale Italian restaurant in town. Expensive. The kind of place you go when you want to impress someone. I texted Jerome. Simone wants to have lunch with me. Friday. Should I go? His response came immediately. Yes. Wear a wire. I'll arrange it. On July 5th at 12:45 p.m., I walked into Giovanni's wearing a navy blouse with a small recording device hidden in the collar, completely legal in Texas, where only one party needs to consent to recording a conversation. Simone was already there, sitting at a corner table, wearing a cream-colored designer dress and holding a glass of white wine. She stood up and smiled as I approached. Inez, thank you so much for coming. I wasn't sure you would. You invited me. It seemed rude to refuse. We sat down. A waiter brought me water and a menu. Order whatever you like, Simone said. This is my apology lunch. I feel terrible about what happened at the wedding. I was stressed and I took it out on you, and that wasn't fair. It's in the past. Still, I want us to start over. You're going to be my mother-in-law for the rest of our lives. I want us to be close. She smiled. It was a good smile. Warm, practiced. If I didn't know what I knew, I might have believed it. We ordered, made small talk. She asked about the ranch, about the cattle, about the pecan harvest. Then, after the salads arrived, she leaned forward. Inez, I want to be honest with you. Isaiah and I have been talking a lot about the future, about what we want our life to look like, and we both agree that the ranch is important. It's his heritage, his home. But we also think, we think there are ways to honor that heritage while also making the property more sustainable. Sustainable how? Financially sustainable. Inez, the numbers don't lie. Running cattle and growing pecans is barely profitable. After you account for property taxes, equipment maintenance, feed costs, labor, you're probably netting $60,000 to $75,000 per year. That's less than Isaiah could make working a regular job in town. It's not about maximum profit, it's about, I know, heritage, tradition. I respect that, I really do. But here's the thing. You can honor tradition and be financially smart. The two aren't mutually exclusive. She pulled out her phone and showed me a presentation. It looked professional. Graphs, photos, financial projections. This is a business plan I put together. It's a proposal to convert the ranch into a heritage event venue. We'd keep the agricultural operations, the cattle, the pecans, but we'd add event hosting, weddings, corporate retreats, family reunions, historical tours. She swiped through slides. We could host 20 to 24 events per year at an average price of $75,000 per event. That's $1.5 million to $1.8 million in annual revenue. After operating costs, we'd net around $800,000 to $900,000 per year. You'd receive 50% of that, $400,000 to $450,000 annually. Compare that to the $75,000 you make now. And who would manage these events? We would, Isaiah and I. Well, primarily me. This is what I do. I help agricultural properties transition to higher revenue models. I have connections with event planners, wedding coordinators, corporate clients. I could have this operational within 6 months. And where would I live during all these events? Her smile flickered. Well, that's something we'd need to discuss. Obviously, you couldn't stay in the main house during events. That would be disruptive to clients. We'd probably need to build you a smaller residence somewhere on the property. Or honestly, Inez, and please don't take this the wrong way, but at your age, wouldn't it be easier to move into town? Somewhere with less maintenance, less work, maybe a nice condo where you could relax and enjoy your retirement? You've worked that land for 40 years. You've earned a rest. There it was, the real agenda. You want me to move off my land so you can turn it into a business. Not off the land, just into a more appropriate living situation. You'd still own 50%. You'd still get your share of profits. You'd just be more comfortable and safe. What if something happened to you out there? What if you fell? Had a heart attack? It could be hours before anyone found you. I've lived on that land for 40 years. I think I can manage. But should you have to? Inez, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to set up a situation where everyone wins. You get financial security. Isaiah gets to honor his heritage and make a good living. She paused. And I get to build something meaningful with my husband. Or, I said calmly, you get to fulfill your assignment from Patterson Development. Her face froze. The smile vanished. What? You work for Patterson Development Group. You're a land acquisition consultant. Your job is to identify target properties and facilitate acquisition. Our ranch has been on your company's target list since January 2022. You were assigned to my son 2 months before you met him at that conference. The color drained from her face. I don't know what you're talking about. I have your employment contract. I have the internal memo assigning you to target number 7. That's us. I have your report from March 14th, 2022, where you described Isaiah as receptive to modernization concepts and recommended a 12 to 18-month timeline to engagement. Simone's hands were shaking now. She put down her fork. Inez, whatever you think you know, I know everything. I know you'd make a $140,000 commission if you got us to sell to Patterson Development. I know you've done this to 31 other Black families across Texas. I know this entire relationship was a business strategy. That's not true. I love Isaiah. Do you? Or do you love the $2.8 million worth of land he's connected to? She stood up abruptly. I don't have to listen to this. You're paranoid. You're a bitter old woman who can't accept that your son is building his own life. Sit down, Simone. My voice came out harder than I'd intended. She sat. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to go home and tell Isaiah the truth. All of it. About Patterson Development. About the assignment. About the commission. About everything. I'm not, or I will. With documentation. With recordings. With evidence that will end your marriage and probably your career. You're bluffing. Try me. We stared at each other across the table. Finally, Simone grabbed her purse and stood up. You've made a mistake, Inez. A big one. Isaiah loves me. When I tell him about this, about how you're trying to destroy our marriage with conspiracy theories, he's going to choose me. And then we're going to take legal action to get what's rightfully his. There's nothing rightful about fraud. Prove it. She leaned down close. Prove that I didn't fall in love with him naturally. Prove that every moment we've shared wasn't real. You can't, because even if I was assigned to identify the property, which I'm not confirming, that doesn't mean my feelings aren't genuine. Isaiah and I are married. We're a team, and teams protect each other. She walked out. I sat there for a moment, then pulled out my phone and texted Jerome. She didn't confess, but she didn't deny either, and she threatened legal action. His response, Good. Let them come. We're ready. On July 18th, exactly 1 month after the wedding, I was in my garden when I heard 3 vehicles coming up the drive. Isaiah's truck, Simone's BMW, a black Mercedes sedan. 2 men in expensive suits emerged from the Mercedes, carrying briefcases. Lawyers. Mama, Isaiah said, not meeting my eyes. We need to talk inside. In my living room, where James and I raised our son, the attorney sat on my sofa. Simone took James's chair. Isaiah stood by the window. The older lawyer, Robert Jenkins, pulled out papers. Mrs. Walker, let me be direct. Isaiah owns 50% of this property but has 0 control. That's not equitable. That's exactly what my husband intended. Your husband wrote that will 25 years ago. Isaiah is now 37, married, fully capable of managing property. The restrictions are outdated. They protect the property. From what? From being profitable? Jenkins leaned forward. Last year, you netted $68,000 from $2.8 million in assets. That's a 2.4% return. That's mismanagement. This is a home, not an investment. The younger lawyer spoke up. We've prepared a petition for partition of property. We'll file it Monday if you won't agree to voluntary transfer of administrative control. You want to force a sale of my home? Texas law allows any co-owner to petition for partition. If the court agrees you can't manage the property properly, it orders a sale, 50-50 split. Isaiah finally spoke. Mama, just give me the keys. Give me a chance to build something for my family, for the baby. Baby? Simone smiled. I'm 6 weeks pregnant. My grandson, growing inside a woman who'd targeted my son as a business assignment. Congratulations, I said quietly. Jenkins stood. Mrs. Walker, we're offering a choice. Transfer control voluntarily or we go to court and question your competency. You're 62, alone, running a struggling operation. We'll bring medical experts proving your emotional attachment has compromised your judgment. A judge might order a conservatorship. You'd have me declared incompetent? We'd present evidence, let a judge decide. I walked to Isaiah. Do you really believe I'm incompetent? That I don't know what I'm doing? I believe you're stuck, Mama. Stuck in the past, and it's hurting both of us. So you'd have me declared unfit? If that's what it takes to move forward, yes. Give me the keys, Mama. His voice was desperate. No! Give me the keys! He lunged for the chain around my neck. I stepped back. These keys are not yours to take. They're mine, my inheritance, my future, and you're stealing it because you can't let go of a dead man. Silence. Then we have nothing more to discuss. Leave my property, now. Jenkins stood. We'll file Monday. You'll be served by Friday. Isaiah lingered at the door. Mama, you chose money over memory. You chose her over me. Don't expect me to help you destroy what 4 generations died protecting. Those people are dead, Mama. Their struggles don't have to be ours. Then you understand nothing your father taught you. Fine, then I don't have a mother. Maybe you don't, because the son I raised would never do this. He left. I watched his taillights disappear, then called Jerome Thompson. They're filing for partition Monday. Are you ready? No, but file my new will anyway. The one with the irrevocable trust. On July 20th, I signed the hardest document of my life, Last Will and Testament of Inez Walker. Upon my death, the Walker Ranch transfers into an irrevocable trust. Property cannot be sold, subdivided, or converted to commercial use for 50 years. Isaiah receives 50% of agricultural income only, no administrative control. If Isaiah challenges this will, he forfeits everything to the African American Land Preservation Foundation. Keys go to the trust administrator, not Isaiah. If he finds out, Jerome warned, it'll devastate him. He already devastated me. At least the land survives. The partition case was filed July 22nd. Court date set for October 15th. Isaiah didn't call, didn't visit. I heard he'd moved to Austin with Simone. I spent 2 months working the land alone. Mrs. Dorothy Hayes visited every Sunday. You miss him? She'd ask. Every day, but I can't miss him more than I respect myself. On August 30th, Mrs. Hayes brought news. There's talk about Simone's company, legal trouble. The FBI's involved. I called Marcus Chen immediately. The next day, he showed me an FBI press release dated August 28th. FBI announces investigation into Patterson Development Group. Patterson Development Group is under criminal investigation for systematic fraud targeting black landowners. Methods allegedly included manipulation of family members, use of employees to establish romantic relationships with property owners' relatives, and coercion. 73 properties identified, representing $180 million in potentially fraudulent transactions. 12 persons of interest, including consultants who approached targets under false pretenses. Marcus showed me more documents. Simone's one of the 12. They have evidence she targeted 11 families, including yours. Total suspected commissions, $673,000. She's facing wire fraud charges, up to 20 years federal prison. On September 4th, Patterson Development issued a statement denying wrongdoing, but promising to terminate any employees who violated policy. On September 9th, Simone was fired. On September 12th, Isaiah called for the first time in 2 months. Mama, he was crying. Did you know about the FBI investigation? I knew her company was being investigated. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? Silence. She's 3 months pregnant, and she's probably going to prison. They're saying our whole relationship was a lie, that she targeted me. His voice broke. I've lost everything. My wife, my dignity. Everyone knows I was played. Isaiah, you tried to tell me. You saw it from the beginning. But I was so angry at you. God, Mama, I was such a fool. Where are you? Austin. But Simone moved out. She wants a divorce. And the baby? She's keeping it. Says I can have visitation, but she doesn't want me involved beyond that. Come home, Isaiah. I can't. After what I did, come home anyway. The partition case. I'll withdraw it if you withdraw yours. Mama, I don't deserve. Come home, baby, please. Isaiah dropped his lawsuit on September 20th. I dropped mine the same day. But he didn't come home. I heard through town he was working at Joe Anderson's mechanic shop, living in a small apartment, going to AA meetings. He'd started drinking heavily. His divorce finalized February 3rd, 2025. Simone got primary custody of their daughter Ruth, born January 8th, 2025, 6 pounds, 11 ounces, named after Isaiah's great-great-great-grandmother. Simone accepted a plea deal March 15th, 18 months probation, $50,000 restitution, banned from real estate, no prison time. Patterson Development settled a class action lawsuit for $47 million, and I kept working the ranch. Alone. January 22nd, 2026, I was 64 years old, wrapping burlap around rose bushes when Isaiah's truck pulled up. He sat there for a moment, then got out carrying a toolbox. Mama, I saw the east fence is down. Can I fix it? I looked at my son. Thinner, weathered, aged 5 years in 18 months. You know where the wire is? He worked all day. I brought him lunch at noon. He took it without speaking, just nodded thanks. He came back the next day. And the next. For 3 weeks straight, Isaiah worked sunrise to sunset. We didn't talk much, just worked. On the 4th week, he finally sat on the porch with me. I handed him coffee, cream and 2 sugars, the way I'd made it since he was 15. How's Ruth? My granddaughter, the baby I'd only seen in photos. Beautiful. Got your eyes. You'll get to smile again, son. I don't know if I deserve to. Everyone deserves a second chance. Isaiah set down his coffee. Mama, I need to apologize. A real apology. His eyes were wet. I'm so sorry. For not listening about Simone. For threatening you with lawyers. For saying I didn't have a mother. For almost destroying what Ezekiel built. What Ruth protected. What Daddy died protecting. Isaiah, no, please. I've been in therapy for months. Working through the drinking, the anger, the shame. He pulled out an old photograph. Ezekiel and Ruth, 1876. I kept this in my wallet all these years, but I stopped looking at it. Stopped remembering they fought for this land. Bled for it. And I almost threw it away for a business plan. He was crying openly now. I don't know if you can forgive me, but I want to make this right, however long it takes. I took his hand. I forgave you long ago, but forgiving isn't the same as trust. Trust has to be earned back. I know. I want to earn it. I want to learn everything, Mama. How to really run this place as a legacy. I want to teach Ruth someday about Ezekiel and all the walkers who came before. I stood up and reached for the keys around my neck. Mama, no. These keys still belong to me, but you can carry them while you learn. I placed them in his palm. I won't let you down again. I know, baby. He pulled me into a hug and cried like he used to when he was little. I love you, Mama. I love you too, son. Always have. Today is June 15th, 2027. I'm 65. Isaiah is 40. He lives in the cottage on the property. Works the ranch with me every day. He sees Ruth every other weekend. She's 2.5 now. Last month she ran through these fields for the first time, chasing chickens and laughing. Simone brings her. Things are civil now. Simone works as a teacher's aide in Dallas. She's in therapy too, trying to make amends. Last month, Isaiah and I donated 40 acres to the African American Land Preservation Foundation. It'll become an educational site about Black land ownership. We'll keep the other 120 acres and keep farming. When I die, not for a long time yet, those 120 acres go to Isaiah. No trust, no conditions. He's earned them. He's proven he understands what they mean. The keys hang around my neck, but Isaiah has a copy now. Sunday evenings we sit on this porch with coffee and talk about Ezekiel, about how he survived when they tried to kill him, about how every generation of walkers had to fight. You think it'll ever stop, Mama? Isaiah asked last Sunday. People trying to take what's ours? No, but every generation has a choice, fight or surrender. We chose to fight, not because we were stronger, but because we understood what we were fighting for. What were we fighting for? Proof. Proof we existed when they said we didn't matter. Proof we built something when they said we couldn't. Proof we survived when they tried to erase us. If you're listening from somewhere far away, I want you to know something. At 65, I've learned that love isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to let go. It's about protecting what matters, even from the people you love most. The keys around my neck aren't just metal. They're history. They're resistance. They're proof that one woman with dignity and documentation can defend an entire world. I didn't win because I was smarter or richer. I won because I knew what I was protecting. I knew its value couldn't be measured in dollars. And I won because I loved my son enough to risk losing him. Because sometimes the greatest act of love is saying no. This ranch has been in my family for 152 years. Ezekiel bought it with $847. Ruth kept it during Jim Crow. My grandparents kept it during the Depression. James and I kept it through widowhood. And now Isaiah will keep it for Ruth. And on, for as long as this family exists. Because some things are worth more than money. Some things are worth fighting for, even when the fight costs you everything. Thank you for staying with me until the end. My name is Inez Walker. I'm 65 years old. This was my story. And I'm still here, still standing, still holding the keys.